little history here. We both have a history in pharmaceuticals. Let's talk about your history and what led you to Rockbox to begin with.
So I started with a company called Eli Lilly, and actually one of my drugs was Prozac. So I was right there at the beginning of that whole SSRI movement, and it was actually kind of an exciting time in medicine. But I found, and so I worked there for several years. Then I went to work for a Belgian company that was acquired by Abbott Pharmaceuticals, and then another company in Massachusetts, and that was later acquired. And then I worked for a private equity firm to run one of their facilities. I will tell you that I think corporate America gets a terrible rap, and it should. There's a lot of reasons it should, but I'm incredibly grateful for that 25 years of executive development, of persuasion and influence training, of leadership training. What I was exposed to. Some travel to Europe and all over. Been to 49 states, and there's a lot I'm grateful for in the experience I got in corporate America, and it gives you some polish. There's an expectation that you kind of raise your game, especially as you rise the ranks. I moved my family 8 times across, literally end zone to end zone a couple times in this country, to take that next step and to get more experience and more responsibility. So I'm really thankful for that experience, and I hope, I'm not going to say never, but I hope to never, ever have to go back to that, because I think building your own company, having a team, we've got a team of 26 here that you're just really tight with, that, it's you against, all of you against the world. Man, that's just something you don't experience in corporate America. Corporate America so many times is you against the guy in the cubicle or the office next to you, because you're gunning for, the pie is only so big. In corporate America, the pie is only so big and you have to slice it up. In entrepreneurship, you just grow the pie. Like, you and I can be competitors and just like, hey man, let's just grow this thing together, right? Like I'm gonna fight hard, so are you, but we can grow the pie. Where in corporate America, the company is so big, there's only so many positions, so many promotions, and you fight for those. And so really the competition is inside those 4 walls versus outside of that. And that, man, once you get out of that, you realize what a shark tank it is, and not in a healthy way, not in a healthy way at all.
Mm-hmm. And we're also, I think we're influenced by our friends and family, are we not, to take that leap?
Of course. I can tell you right now, my mom, I love her to death, thought I was crazy as hell. Like, what are you doing? You're leaving, multi-six figure this, but all these benefits, stock options. My dad was an entrepreneur when I was growing up, which is funny because I didn't realize that. He had his own, like a small car care chemical distributorship. I never thought of, hey, dad's an entrepreneur. I just thought, well, dad just has his own business, like it just didn't know what that meant. That's all I knew, which is kind of funny. So I think he was definitely more supportive. My wife was amazingly supportive. I think that's really key, is to have a spouse that is behind you and understands kind of the crazy dreams. But I had some, it's funny. A lot of my corporate friends were like, yeah, man, go for it. Do it. But I know damn well they called, all kind of buddies, they called him, he's crazy.
He's insane.
Absolutely crazy. He's insane. He's insane. Now they know this is all I do, but I know when I made that change, it was not my character, what people knew. It wasn't the costume and the facade that I wore to work every day for 25 years.
It probably was Roger's going through a midlife crisis, something along those lines, right?
Yeah. Instead of buying an Aston Martin or a Porsche, I built a company.
Built a company. Could have done a lot worse.
Exactly.
My background wasn't actually in pharmaceutical sales as well, but it goes back to when I was in my 20s. I wasn't in a leadership position. I was in pharmaceutical sales. And I would agree with you. I did both cardiovascular equipment, orthopedic equipment, and then pharmaceutical sales overall over 10 years. And Roger, I would agree 100% that there's a lot of gratitude there for what we learned working for larger organizations. But I will be also honest with you, or I should say, I would be lying to you right now if I told you at the time that I was grateful and enjoyed it, because I hated it. Nothing shy. And I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad worked in the medical field. He was a cardiovascular technician, or heart technician. So during the open heart surgery, he would run like the heart lung machine and stuff. And so I got an in when I graduated college and got into medical sales that way through cardiovascular. And I did not appreciate it at the time, even though it was a great career and it was well paying and everything else. I didn't have any appreciation for, but looking back on it now, and the reason why I bring this up is because we have an audience of folks who are either A, looking to buy a franchise, or B, they're aspiring franchisors or emerging franchisors. And I think, I hope that this show gives them an opportunity to reflect on their own life, to say that some of those times that they hated the job they had, or the career they did for too long, or maybe the career they're doing too long right now, actually there was great value in it, that they did learn a lot. I learned a lot about how to work autonomously. I learned how to be part of an organization. Heck, even how to behave in a corporate setting, right? And to dealing with also the hierarchy of an organization. And all those things are opportunities you and I would never have had if we had just started Rockbox and 99 Sports when we were 21 years old, right?
I'm pretty sure I would have failed.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure it just, you can't even appreciate the bag of tricks that you have that comes with gray hair, right? You know, like, I've earned every one of these strands of gray hair from the lessons that you learn. And there's only, you know, pain is the best teacher, bar none. It's the best teacher by tenfold. And if you don't have pain, you don't grow. And that pain may be in your current role. So either find a way to reinvent that role or leave that role, right? Maybe it is time. Like, at some point, it's time to leave a role, but you have to find the lesson in that pain, or that pain was wasted. You know, it was pain for the sake of pain, which is just, it's insanity. So I think as I've gotten older, I've tried to look for, and you know, in the moment, no, of course not, but you know, I'm not that good, but I try to very quickly afterwards look back and go, okay, what did I learn there? What did I learn not to do? What did I learn that worked? Let's repeat more of that behavior. Let's repeat more of whatever that was. And I'll tell you, corporate America is a great learning environment for all the skills you just mentioned. Like, you just rattled off the perfect list. And it also teaches you what not to do. And what I mean by that is, we built a new headquarters here. So Rockbox and Beam was growing. We needed a bigger office. So rented half of this third floor, and they gave us a very generous TI allowance, a tenant improvement allowance to offset the construction costs. And so we installed every office here, every wall here, besides the drywall behind me, is floor to ceiling glass, and the doors are glass. And that's, you know, corporate America. I know some of the new buildings don't look like that, but I grew up in corporate America. The higher up you went, the higher the floor you went, the farther away from your team you went, closer to the corner you went, and your door became oak so nobody could see in, which is just nonsense. And you know, I don't know how you can build a team that way. So, you know, my office sits, and by the way, every office that we built, like, I had two demands: floor to ceiling glass, and every office is the same exact size. And, you know, my office is the same size as everybody else's, and my office is right in the middle of the hallway with everybody else's. Like, it's not center, it's not, you know, it's just kind of there, because I think that sends the message that this is an equal playing field, and what wins is talent and results. You know, hey, tenure, we appreciate it. Here's a gold watch, thank you. But talent and results is what gets rewarded here. And we've got 25-year-old directors here, and that started as, you know, associates, but they kill the game. And so I don't need to wait till they're 35 to give them a promotion and more money, because they're amazing contributors, you know, and that would never happen in corporate America, because damn it, I had to do it. So do you, you know, I had to walk through the gauntlet. So do you, Frank, you know, and that's a poisonous way, I think, to build a culture.
Absolutely. What about, how did franchising though find you? So you're in the pharmaceutical industry in a leadership position for how many years? Was it 20 some?
Leadership was probably at least 20 years in leadership. Yeah.
So
the first 5 were basically sales, and then.
Do you have any background in franchising? Of course not. Like, no, most of us, none of us do.
No, it's funny. I did somebody else's podcast not too long ago, and they asked, you know, not how did you find franchising? How did franchising find you? Because nobody finds franchising, right?
Right.
But hey, man, as you outlined your audience, I'll be the first to admit, I thought, look, you get a great concept, you franchise it, and then it's just a road paved with gold.
Oh,
you know, like that's, you know, because
who told you that?
Yeah, exactly. Because you see McDonald's and Chick-fil-A and you know, Orange Theory and all these things, and you're like, oh my God, this looks so easy. You just have a great concept and you sell that.
We think they're all like that. There's 4,000 franchisors. But when we think of franchising, we think of those few brands.
You're right. Those
are the far and few
between.
between.
I didn't know what an FDD was. I didn't know what an FA was, but you know, another lesson maybe for the listeners is, if you don't have the expertise, buy it. buy it. Now, don't overpay for it, as a lot of people will want to overcharge you for that. But man, shorten the learning cycle and pay for expertise, not for somebody to do it for you, because then you didn't learn anything, but for somebody to teach you how to do it. Now, if it's something you're only gonna have to do one time, then pay somebody to do it. But if it's something you have to do on a continual, annual, quarterly, monthly basis, pay somebody to acquire the knowledge so you know how to do it, so you can train somebody in your company to do it, and then they can own it and they can do it for you, and then they can teach other people to do it. But that's how I approached franchising was, okay, I know nothing about this. What is an FDD? I'm going to research that. I'm going to read as many FDDs as I get my hands on. How is an FA different, a franchise agreement different from a franchise disclosure document? Okay, what does that look like? What can we say? What can we not say? I hired a consultant for $25,000 to tell me, what are we allowed to say? Well, you can't. Can I tell him I made $300,000 this year in Rockbox? No, you can't say that.
Don't you dare.
Exactly. Okay, isn't that the most important thing? But
yes, but you can't say it.
But you can't say it, exactly. So I went through that same learning curve. Talked with lawyers, talked with consultants. Hired, like I said, the first two hires were marketing consultants. One that I'd worked with before, one was on the West Coast to build this brand, to make it look the way it does, because that's not my skill set. And again, we were only going to build the brand one time, so to speak. So that I outsourced and maybe just had some comments or opinions on. But like digital advertising, I became an expert at that. And I didn't even have a Facebook account in 2017. Never been on social media in my life. And realized, okay, I can grow old and be ignorant, or I can, jump in the deep end here and figure out what to do and how this works. And, how do you run Facebook traffic? How do you run Google traffic? And learned how to do that, so then I could then teach that to somebody else who now runs our digital agency internally here. But if anybody's listening and they're like, but I'm 45 or I'm 40 or I'm 50 or I'm 55, it's I should have when I was younger. You still have at least 30 years in front of you. Like you can build an empire in 30 years. I was 47 when I walked away from basically a $500,000 compensation package to zero and started a business from scratch and built it. And, I truly have worked harder than I've ever worked in my entire life. Like, as and there's no time clock. You just work. You just wake up and start working, and you work till it's time to go to bed. That's entrepreneurship, but you love it because it's you're building your own house.
Right.
But I think so many people are, and man, I was close, brother. I was so close to just probably saying, you know what? I'm almost to the finish line. Let me just put another 10 years and I got plenty of money and I'll be good. Miserable. That'd have been a miserable existence. But man, I was probably close to that. But that's where that whole jump theory, like, don't decide, jump, go, file the LLC, open the bank account, start acquiring customers. Like you just go.
Right. Just start taking action. If you think too long and you think too much about it, you can easily talk yourself out of anything.
By breakfast, easily. Yeah.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.